Hello and welcome to yet another Connected. My name is Gordon Anderson and we have so much nice content for you guys today. At 10 over 3, we will talk about bad sound, what that means when it comes to everything from IT investments and business to actually talk about how do you fix it. What is a good headset? What is a bad headset? Can you use your phone's headset as a business headset? Or maybe even a gaming headset? Who knows? You will after you watch that part of the show. Our second guest of today will go live in about 20 minutes and we'll talk about how to free up time for the IT department and talk about what trends are happening there right now when it comes to IT service desk, self-helping, and getting the users to actually fix their own problems. But first, we will talk about something that's near and dear to my heart and is very important in times like that, and that is being agile, whatever that means. Welcome, Anders, to Connected.
Thank you.
So, you are senior
Consultant.
at Recordinate.
Yeah, at Recordinate, yes.
And what is Recordinate? What do you do?
Recordinate basically has two parts. One business area working with agile, specifically agile transformations and transforming for most often legacy companies to become agile companies. And then a second part where we work with customer experience and customer experience management and the tools and practices for that.
Okay, and it's the first thing there that we're going to focus on today.
Absolutely.
And because why I wanted to talk to you today is just because we see such a big change, and I used to describe it the logarithmic curve of technology advancement. It goes like this for every year.
It's exponential.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like 100 years ago, when you started a company and you worked in a special way, you could be much slower than today because change didn't happen like this.
True.
What has happened the last couple of months really shows us that change can happen very fast. But that's just these months. But that's just how it is every day otherwise as well. And that's where agile comes in.
Yeah.
Being agile.
Yes, true. You could say that actually that what is happening now is forcing everyone into that situation. But as you say, I mean, the world has for a long time already progressed with this accelerated need of innovation and exponential development in technology and so on that pushes this further.
Yeah, but for me, being agile is, that's a sentence. But agile, like with a big A, or how could I say
Yeah,
it? Like,
I mean,
as it is a thing as well, not just the word agile.
Exactly, and I think if you ask different people, you get different answers because agile is such a broad area. I usually just explain it as it's a new way of working and new way of managing organization and companies that has been developed for the past 20 or so years. And it's actually a big family of different practices, but they all share a common belief, and that is, you could say, in an organization very much a reverse accountability, where you kind of empower people and make sure that you implement the methodologies that make use of everyone's brain power in the entire organization and do not divide people into thinkers and doers. So
that I've heard about before,
Yeah.
thinkers and doers.
Yeah.
But forget about that
Yep.
today. That's not how you should start a business.
That's not how you should start a business. But actually, if you mentioned it before, that most management models that we apply today in companies are actually invented over 100 years ago, and at the time where nothing changed at an exponential pace. So trying to kind of survive in this world by applying the same traditional way of managing companies and organization doesn't really work anymore. So there is kind of a force that drives innovation also in management and innovate new ways of working. They're all kind of within the agile spectra, I would say.
Like the new ways of working.
New ways of
And
working.
if it's a new way of working, you can call it sort of an agile
yeah.
way of working.
Yeah.
And but
there are
yeah.
specific methodologies.
Yeah,
like
that was
Scrum,
exactly-
Kanban, and different kind of working practices within Agile, and there are quite many nowadays, and different kind of adoptions, and it's still being developed further. And they are there to kind of help the teams, because it's usually nowadays a team-based organizations, also according to agile practices. You go for team-based organizations, but then you also provide those teams with a way working, either Scrum or Kanban or
so
different
that's
kind of.
more like the technical way you're working.
Yeah,
in
exactly. The
teams.
methodologies in these teams.
But you said reverse accountability and a team way of working. Like, what's different from that and how we used to? Like, what's the more practical, actual difference?
One big difference if you compare to a traditional line organization and a typical function, where you would have similar competences. You say, for instance, within marketing or within whatever HR, then you typically have the same competences, but to actually deliver a value to the value receiver, usually a customer or someone else, you need different competences. So instead of having kind of a value stream and a way you work within the company where you need to kind of hand over between different departments, you compose these teams cross-functional with different multi-skilled people in these teams that together can solve something end-to-end. So maybe you would have one from marketing, one from IT, one from whatever you have, some kind of business area, and then they together deliver something. And that's a different way of putting an organization together altogether.
And that is in most of the agile methodologies to just cross-functionality.
Cross-functionality is quite important, and the reason for that is, of course, to be able to deliver something end-to-end with minimal dependencies to someone else. That makes them really quick, which is one big part of the agile concept, being fast.
But do you have any examples of like how that actually can be seen in companies right now, or like when there are quick or not?
Yeah, so
Maybe
if you're
they're
a slow company or quick, yeah. But what we see in companies that adopt these agile ways of working is that they put together teams that are really truly cross-functional, and they pick people from IT, from marketing, from customer service, and put together in one team, and then they kind of work together to solve create a piece of value for the customer, and I think that is what we see in companies that do that become much faster, and people also like to work in that way because it also minimizes internal bureaucracy in terms of handing over and stuff. They could really work as a really small company in itself, the team.
Because the team, if I've understand this correctly, has like the power to choose for themselves to reach the end goal instead of a classic like hierarchy.
Yeah.
Like this is our goal, implement it.
Exactly.
You do exactly this. You do exactly this. We have the plan, and then you do your thing, and that's it. You have no idea what happened, but now you get it all in the team, or
you basically give that team a mission, and that mission the team strive to kind of deliver on and improve and develop every day, basically. And they also work according to these practices where they work usually in sprints, where they have kind of controlling their, making sure that there is a structure in place, helping them to kind of deliver every day and synchronize every day, both within the team but also across together with other teams.
Okay, but and when that is, of course, like if you can decide for yourself, everything goes quicker.
Yep.
And that is what what you need when the world needs quicker decisions and
Yeah.
things happens all the time and all the time. And I was thinking, like, you worked with this for quite some time,
Yeah.
and so do you have any like good examples where people could look to? Oh, that company did this, and it wouldn't worked otherwise. Like, because we can see now during these times where some companies have been able to just change
Adapt.
almost their business model. Some companies
Yeah.
actually have changed their complete business model
Yeah.
because they needed to.
Exactly.
Uh,
I think a good example here in Sweden is ICA, the big, all basically the owning most of, half the market in food stores around Sweden, and they are also affected very much by this situation
Hey,
that we're
can't
all
go
in.
to stores.
Yeah, yeah. But of course, in a way, in a positive way, because they have a lot of extra need. People are buying extra food and so on. But it was also a challenge for them in the central organization, which is about 2,000 people, that they needed to work from a distance, but at the same time handling an increase in delivery. And they adopted across the entire organization agile ways of working roughly a year ago, almost a year ago, 10 months ago.
Oh, so it's quite new.
Yeah, it's quite new for them. But they actually said that if they haven't done this and they've already seen the effect of it, they couldn't cope with this increased delivery capability that they now have. And making sure that the organization really could adapt to this new situation in a really, really fast way. And that is what happens if you give the people also a mandate and the different teams to make the decisions themselves instead of needing to escalate, which is the traditional management model.
I just know from myself, like,
Yeah.
when you need to escalate something and ask your boss, who will ask the next boss,
Exactly.
and each email takes a day at least to get an answer on, because people have so much work to do every time, all the time. And like, okay, so I send this now. Okay, so next day she sees the email and mails him.
Exactly.
And then
takes too long.
she sees it. Then it goes the same way back, and after a week I have an answer to know what I can do next.
Exactly.
After 5 days. Like,
So, I mean, that's where the reverse accountability comes in, because if you really give the team the mission and say that this is what you need, you also as a manager needs to provide all the means that they need to make those decisions. Do they have the competences and the capacity and everything they need in the team to be able to function in a good way? And that is the role of all the managers around, to make sure that the teams have everything they need to have to make those decisions and deliver that value.
So instead of like doing the decisions and checking the decisions, they just, what do you need? I'll help you.
Exactly, and maybe they formulate the mission. This is what we need to achieve in the end. This is a value that we need to create, but basically you're the ones that decide how to create that value, and you decide what you need in order to create that value.
So if someone now listens and are thinking about their own organization and like, okay, we are not there, we're still using these old management styles. And if it wasn't clear before, a couple of months ago it became clear those kind of things needs to change. And where do you start?
So basically,
like, some small short tips. We can't go through the whole.
The whole no, exactly. But basically, is most companies today have already tried out agile in ways of working, kind of in different pockets in an organization, and that's really good. If you haven't done that, that's where I would start, to just try it on something small and make sure that we can evaluate that and see, does this work and how does this work. And then build some confidence in the organization and that, okay, this is something that we also want to now expand. But on the other hand, if you already have tried that and you already know that Agile is working, how do you scale it in an organization? And then you need to kind of get your senior management involved in that and make a decision, and then I would prefer getting help from outside, but really to kind of then you're ready to do it broadly. But you need your senior management to really support and buy into this for real.
I've heard, this is just from my experience talking to people about agile and companies going agile. The IT department and developers it seems to be like the high percentage of people like, yeah, we did that 5 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Agile, a lot of Agile was kind of invented in the beginning of 2000 and mainly for IT development.
So that's
where it comes from, where the Agile manifesto written in the beginning of 2000 came from IT, basically. But now it's been widely adopted and transformed, I would say, to fit all parts of a company. So you could use Agile everywhere today.
Perfect. That's a great introduction to Agile and why it is so important right now. I want to thank you very much for being here and teaching us about this, because as said, this is okay. I like the next topic and the topic after that, but this is near and dear to my heart, because working in the best way possible is what drives things forward.
Exactly.
So I'm very happy that you could come here and share your thoughts.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And for those who are listening and watching, we'll be back in a couple of minutes and talk about the IT department, not how they are agile, but other ways where they can free up time for both themselves and their users. So stay tuned. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
We keep things moving. We keep things flexible. We keep things growing. We keep things developing. We keep things safe. We keep things connected, protected, in line, on time, and online. We keep things social. We keep things interesting, sometimes maybe too interesting. We keep things simple. We keep things steady. We provide you with the right IT solution at the right time, at the right price, with one purpose: to keep things moving.
Hi and welcome back to Connected. During the next couple of minutes, about 15 or 20 minutes that is, we're going to talk about the IT department with the focus of freeing up time. More than that, I'm not going to say right now because I'm going to leave it to the expert, who you can see here, which is Denny Carlson, VP Infrastructure and Operations at Dustin. Welcome to Connected.
Thank you.
So, what do you do at Dustin? If we start there, just so that they know who you are.
Yeah. No, but as the title say, the domains I work with is infrastructure and operations and also security. So cover a broad spectrum, but have great colleagues with me. So we focus on that.
You're the one fixing the infrastructure for a company that is the experts on infrastructure.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, that was a nice way of putting it.
That's a big, whew, I don't know if I would like have the guts to take on a role like that almost.
Yeah, but it's with the team we have, then it's possible.
Nice to hear. So, what we're going to talk about today is a bit of like trends, what happening like for the IT department, because one thing from my own experience is that the IT department seldom has enough time, not enough time at least on how much they want to do, because there's always things to do. So freeing up time for the people who actually works, helping the users, is probably one of like the most important things in most IT departments.
Yes.
So what's happening in this area right now? Can I start that broad question?
Yeah, I think it's possible to see certain trends. And of course now there's a lot of talk about digitalization and how that has transformed very rapidly now due to recent events. And those trends are visible in many areas, not only the ones that you encounter that are obvious, but it kind of the same trends trickle out into other domains as well. So we see the importance both as an opportunity, but also as what you speak, we speak of how to free up time, how to make an organization more efficient. It is about creating ways for the user to become more self-reliant and having the information at hand, not always being dependent on IT in this instance. So what we see in other areas, if you look when you look for it from what consumers do outside of like the organizational spectrum, then you usually look up information yourself. You try to find tutorials and so and see what can I do with this, and sometimes you can solve it yourself.
So you don't mean that you usually have an IT department at home as well? Then you yourself are your IT department?
Yeah. So that's creating that same of information flow, that you could have the tutorials, the guidelines, the instructions at hand when you need them. So you see, okay, this is what I need to do. Maybe I can do it. And then if you get stuck, okay, now I can't do it. Then you reach out, and then maybe the load then on the people doing it is less, and it will go faster. So it's about, like we could call it almost collective intelligence, that you spread the competence and use the energy within everyone. So you empower people, you engage them to move forward, and then you move forward together, and that's how you become more efficient.
So instead of sitting with like, I'm the expert, I have all the information, come to me when you need something, you try to no, I'm the expert, but I want you to become an expert as well. Almost.
It would, in the areas where it's possible, of course. But yes, that's the theory behind it. Yes, definitely.
But like, how do you set up a structure like this? If we talk more practical almost, like where do what can you do?
Yeah, I would say you start with trying to build a knowledge base, like articles, where you see usually IT departments have a good idea of what are the most common things we're asked to do, and what can we actually have people do themselves, so they don't need to reach out to us, they just need the instruction how to do it. Some cases are of course hard to automate in that way, but many could be automated. So you build a knowledge base, you start there, and then you can move on to more of adoption. So you have the tutorials, and you you train the users almost that in every instance where you have something you can find information and you can do it, and by that you develop yourself also. So you just it's like a mini learning in it.
Yeah,
as well.
That's a thing I've heard about. Is micro learnings.
Yeah.
Is it this part of this, like getting
Yeah,
everyone to learn just a small?
Yes, it will be an effect. Instead of having this big bunch or a big course, when you have an issue, you encounter it, you get the instructions, you see what to do, and then you learn something. So that is similar to it's called the nano-learnings often, and it's a concept that's often used in security, just that you have small instances instead of big chunks of information.
Yeah, because we talked a bit before, and there's one thing like helping all the users instead of helping a user.
Yes.
Like a user comes with a problem, you help
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
And if that happens 100 times, then you've done the same thing 100 times. Like how
Yes.
do you?
Yeah, that is part of the efficiency aspects, where you see, okay, if you get to, as you say, 100 requests, wouldn't it have been better to take time instead of dealing with all of them sequentially, to look at that and say, okay, how can we make something useful so the user can get further on their own? So making the instruction or the tutorial video, that takes time, of course, but if you compare the 100 tickets to doing that, it's probably worth it. So yes, that's true. It's a concept where you see it more of building. We call it resilience, but that you have the ability to do more without the dependencies, and then lower dependencies. And what you say, not focusing the expertise in one area and then having everyone being dependent on that, instead trying to spread the competence so we can do more together. That's the
But
idea.
I can imagine, like working in IT, it could be hard to convince your bosses or the organization that like I need time to make videos instead of sitting here answering questions, because we will in the long run that will be better. How do you have any tips there if there's like someone watching that's working in the ID department and want to do something like this? Where do you?
There is a tip, a practical thing that I've seen and I've heard about that works pretty well, and that is that you actually measure the time you save by doing this, and that's a method that's applied when you do automation. Okay, we spent this much time doing the automation. What would you get out of it? Then you have a counter on. So every time that this happens, we save this much time. So every ticket that you would get in, or you can see, okay, how many did watch this tutorial? Yeah, it was 100 people, as we said. Then you can just multiply that with the time it would take to manage the cases instead of having done the tutorial. Then
So
you have
like,
your
okay,
business case.
this specific problem takes 5 minutes to fix each time a user comes. And we have 100 users a year needing to this fix. Okay, that's 500 minutes a year. Making an article about it is 100 minutes. So we actually go plus. Like that's the
Yes.
way of thinking to
Yes,
get it done.
spot on. Yes.
It seems logical now when I think about it. Didn't seem logical when I asked the question. But can we see anything else happening in IT departments, like instead of just the micro-learning things?
Well, it is about creating the opportunity for the users to get the information when they need it, and where they need it, on whatever media they're using. That is becoming a thing now, and especially now when we have a lot of people working from home, we see that tendency that it becomes a little bit of a constraint to have everything trickle down to one single point. You need it to be more. You need to be able to provide greater opportunities for users to do things themselves. That we see as a trend.
Like the information can't be just on one intranet over here. If you log in this and there and there, it needs to be where the users are, so to speak, or
Yes. Yeah.
okay, maybe that was a dumb explanation, but like, because as tech goes forward, and you said like most people are so used to tech at home, where they are their own IT boss, and use this service, and no, I'll use Slack to talk to my friends, and I'll use this here, and I'll for my files I'll use Dropbox and whatnot.
I think that's maybe a good distinction. What are we actually saying? What is this change? What does it entail? And it could be described, maybe not it's not spot on, but actually it shows something, and that's instead of applying for something, you want to consume a service. And it goes, what you described now was that, and it's the same here. Instead of sending in my ticket and waiting for a reply and being prioritized and all that, you want the ability to consume the service. How do I solve this? Yeah, you do this, and that. So that kind of concept is what I think is what we're seeing is the next step. It doesn't go for everything, of course, but it is definitely becoming part of this. So it will be the thing we start to build onto the traditional user service experience, I think.
But how do you keep things secure if you want the users to fix things themselves? Like, okay, now it maybe most things doesn't need an admin login on your computer, but maybe some things do. And like, where do you draw the lines?
Yeah, that's where we will almost usually have. We can have things semi-automated. When we talk about access requests, for instance, that of course can be automated, but we'll always feel a need to have some control over that, of course. So there's one of the limitations. But there are a lot of things that doesn't require that, but still you need that interaction with the user service personnel and IT, and maybe that's where you can find some traction and actually build on this instead. But definitely there will be, whenever security becomes involved, and it's about, I think access request is a typical thing.
Yeah.
Then yes, it's a struggle between functionality, like having it when you need it, and of course the security aspects. So there you have to balance it a bit, make it as easy as possible, but without losing your security.
Yeah, but that seems to be like overall. I've written an article about like the IT department versus the users almost, because for me that's the old way of thinking almost. The IT departments are the one saying stop, no, you can't do this, and that is a problem that almost becomes bigger as more people use cloud services of all sorts at home, because they get used to another, like everything should be easy and accessible and whatnot. So we're drifting a bit away from the subject now, but I do want to ask you, like, how can you manage that part? Because it brings frustration for the users if they don't think they can use what they want and do whatever, or you need to learn new system, or maybe this information that we've talked about isn't accessible. They need to go to IT. How do you like move that? Because it is something that needs to be moved forward in the digitalization.
Definitely, I think there's two things. One is that when you talk about now we mentioned security a little bit, and then it's security that is not felt but is there is of course the best security, like when it's automated, when the security team is happy and the user is almost unaware. It's just, it works. That's of course the sweet spot. But then also it is about finding I like the word collective intelligence, but what I mean is that you pull together. So you don't just offload on each other, but you find the common view. Okay, what is it that we need to do? Okay, this is it. What can I do and what can you do? And then you push forward. So I think that is not specific for IT. I think that is in every organization. If you want to become truly efficient, that's where you need to build. To have this not you and me, but rather we when you move forward. And I think that applies here too. But if we see it as only IT only considers IT and the user only see user, then there will be a difference.
I think that's a very good way of putting it. Like the user thinks about usability and IT thinks about security. Then that's a bad way of thinking. Both needs to think about both.
Yes.
And go forward together.
Yes. Yes.
I think there are some very nice words to connect this topic here. If you don't have anything to add about the self-service trends, or do you think we've
Yeah, I think
covered the basics?
Yeah, I think that the bottom line is that next step is about empowering and engaging the user to become part of the movement rather than being on the side watching.
I think that's very, very nice to hear. And thank you very much for joining us and sharing your expertise in this area. Hopefully, for those listening, there were some great tips there in how to evolve your IT departments to become more maybe self-sufficient, almost, that the company can let the users solve their own problems the best they can, securely, of course. And thank you all for watching for this. We have one more guest, actually two more guests on Connected this Wednesday. So stay tuned for a couple of more minutes and we'll be back with Epos and Triada to talk about bad sound during digital meetings and how to fix that. Something that is very important right now, I think. So stay tuned. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Hello and welcome back to Connected. My name is still Gordon Anderson, and this is the last session of today's Connected. Bad sound. Have you ever had bad sound in a digital meeting? If you hadn't, 3 months ago, maybe you had the last couple of months. Digital meetings has exploded, and maybe it's not super uncommon that you need to say, "What did you say now? Oh, what? I can't hear you. Oh, I'm hearing myself." Are those words you've heard? Then you should continue to listen to this session. Because on the line, we have Lars Ries Rasmussen, Senior Vice President of Global Sales at Epos, and Therese König, co-owner and sales manager on Triada, who are experts in exactly this and how to fix the sound. Welcome to the show, Lars and Therese.
Well, thank you, Gordon.
Thanks, Gordon, and thanks for giving us the opportunity to be with you and with the audience here today.
And thank you for being here, because I may know one bit or two about sound, but you're the real experts here, because you both are selling headsets of all different kinds. And I'm very curious to like the differences between using a phone headset or the speaker on your computer or a real office headset, or maybe even using your gaming headset for office calls. But before we go into those questions, the techie stuff, like I don't know if you heard me talk here before, like bad sound at meetings. It's so annoying, and it happens so much. And my thought here was, you're the experts working with this. Do you have any idea of how much time goes to waste? Like people when they don't hear each other.
Yes, I mean we actually did a Gordon. We actually did a study on exactly that topic. It was quite a big study with a lot of people around the world, which we basically asked not only that question but a lot of other questions. And what we found is that an average full-time users, in average loses 29 minutes of productivity each week due to poor audio experiences, which obviously has and can have quite a big impact on our clients, our customers, efficiency, and of course also in the end, on their financials.
Yeah, because like the classic saying, time is money.
That's very true. It's very true.
But the questions you asked, or maybe from own experience, do you know like what are the big pain points when it comes to things like this? Is it that people don't hear each other, or like is it bad connections, or people just using their computer audio and that's usually not good enough, or what is usually the problem?
Yeah. So if we look into to the report and dive into exactly that subject, what was revealed in the report is that 87% of the end users, reckon that they experience at least one pain point due to poor sound quality during their calls and virtual meetings. And the most common problem is excessive background noise.
Ah, of course.
So, yeah, and obviously, as most of you guys know, there's been a trend over the last couple of years whereby companies and organizations is moving more and more into large office-based rooms. That means that you don't necessarily have a room with a closed door. So obviously, the background noise in those type of environments and so on is one of the most common sources of disturbance.
Yeah, and like, just think about today as well, when most people are working from home, and Yeah, I've heard my share of screaming kids in the background, I would say.
Sure, sure. But obviously the kind of the effect that it has is that what it means is that when you are on a phone call or in a virtual meeting and so on, with this excessive background noise, there's a lot of circumstances, or on a lot of occasions it happens that people have to one, repeat their messages so the dialogue partners understand what was being said, but in the more, let's say, dramatic or more serious part of it, that people simply don't understand what is being said, and have to follow up after the meeting to clarify on certain topics. And of course, that's not very efficient.
Yeah, that seems like time well spent, not. But is it like I'm thinking from own experience, like having bad sound. Is it really that big of a problem?
I think it is. I mean, what we'll see, and what we'll continue to see, obviously, is that we've seen over the last couple of years a big trend of companies and organization to a large bigger extent doing virtual meetings as opposed to face-to-face physical meetings. And in order to provide an equivalent experience in the virtual world as opposed to the physical world, the audio performance and the, let's say, the ability to be understood and also hear what your dialogue partners are communicating to you is quite essential in order to ensure that we have kind of the same productivity in the virtual space as we have in the physical space.
Yeah. So, if we go into the thing, how do you fix this problem then? And because I've seen during all the meetings I've had, just the last day, I've seen some white headphones in there. We all know what that is. And I've seen people with these big headsets, no mic, just ordinary like phones. I've a lot of people using the built-in mic and actually speaker in a random computer. Like I've seen so many different solutions and
Mm.
sound. What are the differences here? Like what? It's
The
so hard.
difference,
It's a lot, but
yeah, the difference between headset types. I mean, you could take, for example, a headset that comes with your phone. You know, when you buy your phone and you get
yeah,
those white ones that everyone has. Those are okay for like listening to music, use on your free time, if you just have a quick call with a friend. But when you are at work, you're supposed to come through clearly, and you want to also make a personal impression of the company that you work for. So I think it's very important that you have an enterprise headset, for example, that allows you to speak clearly, but also to hear the person that you talk to.
yeah. Because like
Hmm.
me personally, I use a couple of hi-fi headphones with a
Yeah.
built-in mic, and most of my colleagues don't like me for that because that mic is not as good. But I had no idea when I bought them. I bought them very expensive, nice. I have all the specifications for how good the sound is
Mm.
for me, but then it's oh, and it has a mic.
Yeah.
Uh, are there headphones with the built-in mic that doesn't look like the one I'm having right now and the one you have that can actually be good enough for use at the office, or is it more if it's actually quiet all around?
Well, we actually at EPOS we have different kinds of headphones, and I know that the other manufacturers has as well. And I think that if you are in an open space with a lot of sound and you want to come through clearly, then this microphone is the best way. But there are, of course, headsets like in our new Adapt series that doesn't have any microphone, but those microphones are also optimized to focus on your voice, so it doesn't pick up the voice or the noise from the environment that you're in. So that's the difference, and I think that it's really important when you should choose a headset and you stand there and you don't know which one you should buy, that you talk to someone that actually works with this stuff
Yeah,
to
because
ask.
it's hard to read like
Yeah,
specification wise.
it's really hard to read because often the specifications can be very techy. And if you are just a usual end user, you just want it to work and you want it to be great. So that's what you have us for.
But then, like, if you then okay, I'm working from home all the time.
Yeah.
I need a headset. I'll go to my boss and ask for something, or maybe I need to buy it myself, whatnot. But like, I want a real headset.
Yeah.
Uh, then there are at least, from my experience, two types, like gaming headsets and enterprise headsets.
Yes.
And for me, it's like, okay, but it's a pair of headphones with a microphone. Like, what's the actual difference, or is it more how they look for like design-wise, or are there technical differences between these?
There are some technical differences, but actually, like overall, there are many shared qualities with gaming headsets and enterprise headsets, both that focus on good sound, both for the user and the receiver. But with with enterprise headsets, they often come with a UC certification, or like they have a certification for Teams. And that's what you want when you work and sit in meetings. You just want it to be plug and play. And when you have a certified solution, you know that's what happens. You just have to put it in your PC and it works.
So what is that? A certified solution?
Mm.
Like, what do you gain? Like, what is this certification? Do we talk about USB headsets then instead of like using the classic headphone plug, and they have some software that works with Teams in a way, or what?
Well, yeah, this is for the USB headsets, of course. If you should use Teams, that's just an example, but that's what most people use right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's USB headsets, but also even if it's a gaming headset, it's most often a USB headset since you're gaming on your computer. So that was why I
I,
took that.
I just
Yeah.
want to chip in there, Gordon. So
Yeah.
there is a
Yeah.
clear, I mean, the market is clearly differentiated between kind of, a consumer offering, which is mainly designed and made, for leisure. And on the other side, as Therese says, we are in the business of providing enterprise graded products, and which is basically a work tool, for a company or an organization using UC solutions such as Microsoft Teams, Cisco Jabber,
Mm.
Zoom, and so on. And there is a clear differentiation. So a consumer type headset is in many cases, built, as Therese says, for listening to music and occasionally doing, phone calls maybe on your mobile phone and so on. But the enterprise headsets that we have at EPOS is first of all designed to use or to be used seamlessly with these UC and other telephony solutions available and being used by companies. And then especially on the audio performance, both the performance that you will have in the microphone path, in other words, the ability for you to be heard on the other side. We have various, we're using different noise canceling algorithms and techniques to eliminate surrounding noise and so on, which is what you typically see in a company or any organization. So there is a clear differentiation between the two segments, and it's all about providing in our case, a professional tool, and deliver on the experience that is required when you use this, not for leisure but as a working tool in your day-to-day work.
Yeah, because that's hard for me as a consumer, or even at an IT department wanting to buy a headset to see like, okay, but it's headphones with a microphone. What is actually the difference? I think that's a hard question. Great answer to like see what actually is. Would you say like the business headsets are usually more durable because they are used way more and maybe goes into the laptop bag and such?
Yeah, I think that's a very good. I think that's a very good point, actually, Gordon. A very good question, actually. So obviously, with an enterprise graded headset, we obviously need to deliver on the audio experience. With open office environments and so on, we're starting to see products in the marketplace having active noise cancelling capabilities on the product. Just to give an example, there's a lot of performance enhancement technologies being used for the microphone in order to eliminate surrounding noise. But also, as I said before, it is a work tool for an organization, and that obviously also is impacted on the way we design an enterprise graded headset in terms of the mechanics and the durability. So holding a consumer product and an enterprise graded product in each of your hands, you'll clearly see the difference on the way the mechanics is designed. So in the enterprise, in the case of the enterprise grade headset, we spend lots of time in order to make it very, very durable, so it can withstand a rough treatment both in the office, but also when users, to your point, put it into the laptop bag, they travel with it and so on. So clearly also on the mechanical durability side, there's a difference.
Yeah. I have one last question here before we need to round things up, and that is, if you don't use a headset, there is one more thing I've seen a lot of people have, and that's speaker phones. When should you go for a speakerphone instead of a headset?
Well, first of all, I think that people that are in conference calls where you need to be more people in one call, then you should use a speakerphone because it's better also than talking straight into your PC, because you have this duplex performance, and that allows your conversations to flow and like talk naturally so that you're not interrupted. When you are in these calls and you get interrupted because you talk at the same time, that's what duplex is for those who doesn't know. But also, I think that some people that don't like going around with headphones use speakerphones as well, because you can use it both as a personal device and it's also great for calls.
Oh yeah, I love using actually at home, even though I'm just one person, could use a headset. I love like putting up on the speaker and using an actual speakerphone just so I can walk around at times like this, especially because sitting down, you need a break.
It's
and just walk around.
It's a very good point, Gordon. What we're seeing, especially as everybody knows, we're during the COVID-19 situation. And with people working at home, we do see a lot of users benefiting from having both a headset and also a speakerphone, so they can kind of they can change between these two devices during a day where they conduct a lot of virtual meetings, and it basically enhances the whole experience on the user side.
Thank you. Thank you both very much for joining us on Connected and sharing your knowledge about this.
Thank you for having us. It was great.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Gordon.
Thank you. And for everyone who is watching there at home or from your office, thank you very much for watching this episode 9 of Connected. We still have some more episodes to go. Next week, we will have a small panel to talk about security and infrastructure when working remotely. So now we talked about the sound, let's go into the other parts of working remotely. But that's next week on Connected. Tune in then, and thanks very much for watching.